One of the most common ways anxiety shows up is through overactivation. It's also one of the most misread patterns, both by the people experiencing it and the typical advice that they're given. This is the kind of anxiety that feels like urgency, restlessness, and intensity, or being constantly on, like a gas pedal stuck. The body feels charged, the mind is busy. There's a sense that something needs to happen, even when it's not clear what that thing is. People often describe it as feeling wired, keyed up, unable to settle, or like their system never fully powers down, even with time off. Before I unpack this, I want to pause this for one quick orientation point because it'll change how useful all of this is for you. Not everyone's anxiety or energy shows up in this way. Some nervous systems tend toward overactivation under pressure, while others collapse, numb out, or scatter. If you want to know which way your system typically organizes when anxiety hits, there's a short Somatic Skins assessment linked below. Pause this video, go down and take that quiz. It's not advice, it's not another limiting label. It helps you organize your default pattern so you're not trying to solve for the wrong problem. Okay, let's look at what overactivation actually is. Overactivation happens when the nervous system produces more charge than the body's current structure can contain and run. There's nothing wrong with the charge itself. In fact, a lot of people in this pattern experience it as aliveness, vitality, motivation, or intensity. They may think of themselves as high energy or driven. And the issue isn't that the system is too activated, it's that the activation has nowhere to go. When the body can't distribute or ground that charge, it starts spilling into everything. Breath lifts and speeds up. Muscles stay subtly engaged even at rest. Small movements increase, fidgets. Speech accelerates. Thoughts start racing. Not because the mind is necessarily out of control, but because attention is being pulled along by the energy underneath of it. This is why overactivated anxiety doesn't look like fear. It looks like momentum, but without direction. People in this state are often told to relax, slow down, breathe, or calm themselves. And while that advice sounds sensible, it often makes things worse. Relaxation drops the little bit of structure that the system is using to contain and use the charge. And the result is either a spike in anxiety or a sudden crash into exhaustion. That's not resistance. That's physics. An overactivated system isn't asking to be calmed. It's asking to be contained. Think harnessed or held well. Psychologically, overactivation often shows up as impatience, reactivity, impulsive decision making, or difficulty staying with discomfort without escalating. The person isn't avoiding pressure. They're already under too much of it. So every stimulus adds more charge. Every demand feels urgent. Even neutral situations start to register as something that needs to be dealt with immediately. People in this pattern often say things like, I just have a lot going on, or I've always been high strung, or I function better when I'm busy. Underneath that story is a nervous system that's running hotter than its architecture can support. And one of the common advice around this pattern, by the way, is to reduce what somebody is up to in their life. So there are two ways to grow, right? So when we hit an overactivation charge, We can say, I need to simplify my life and step back from everything that I'm creating and doing, right? Or alternatively, and what we're proposing is that you build the system capacity that can support those projects and growth without always needing to water down the aims. So overactivation and anxiety, they often get confused with personality traits. Someone might be described as intense, driven, reactive, or passionate. But what's actually happening is their system doesn't yet have the capacity to regulate the level of activation it's producing. What resolves this pattern isn't suppression or simplifying life, and it isn't collapse. Trying to calm the system down directly often backfires, and letting it burn itself out usually ends in exhaustion. So, what actually helps is to increase the system's ability to hold charge without spilling. That starts with structure. When the body is better organized, when joints stack, when breath supports the spine, and load can be transmitted cleanly, energy has somewhere to go. It stops leaking into thought and emotion. From there, the system can start learning regulation through pace and rhythm rather than through force. Slower transitions, deliberate movement, longer pathways of breath. This is not to sedate your system, but to teach it that intensity can exist without overwhelm. This is subtle work, and it's why overactivated anxiety doesn't respond well to generic calming strategies. The system isn't fragile, it's just under-supported. And once containment improves, something important happens. Attention stops being dragged around by energy. Thoughts slow down, not because you're controlling them, but because they're no longer being fueled by excess charge. This will increase clarity automatically. The sense of urgency softens. Choice comes back online. This is also where many have a moment of recognition. They realize they weren't anxious because they were afraid. They were anxious because their system was overloaded. And that realization alone can be so relieving. In the next video, we're going to look at the other side of the anxiety spectrum. What happens when the nervous system doesn't produce enough charge, but shows up as numbness, fog, avoidance, or a sense of being disconnected rather than too much. That pattern is just as common, and it's often completely misread. Okay, so if you want to understand which anxiety pattern your nervous system tends to default, remember you have the Somatic Skins assessment linked below. And if you want guided support, rebuilding capacity in the right sequence, and so much more, this is exactly the kind of work that we do inside of the Prestige, and you are welcome to join us for a season. We're starting soon. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Please do consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel out a lot, and I'll see you next time.